Your India, your today, how to make your vote and voice count. Kolkata is the home of the argumentative Indian, and we have three politicians who love a good debate. They also couldn't be less stereotypical. Mahua Moitra left a banking job in New York and London to join politics. Om Prakash Mishra kept alive a life in the Congress party, along with a flourishing academic career. Prosenjit Bose managed to get expelled from the CPIM after he left it on a matter of principle. All of them are outspoken, highly qualified, and refreshingly in today's politics, don't belong to any dynasty. They also know exactly what life is like inside and outside politics. Last year has shown that people like them who choose politics out of passion can make democracy accountable, not just once in 5 years, but every day, every hour. They've all chosen to work in a state which is notoriously difficult to govern and which will be a critical player in determining who comes to power at the center in 2014. And we'll ask Mahua to tell us more about that. I would now request each of them to make a brief statement, and then we can have the discussion and you can put on your boxing gloves and fight. Okay? So Mahua, would you like to speak first? And then I could ask Prosenjit and then Mr. Mishra. Do you want to keep sitting there or you want to come here and speak? Yeah, sure. Great. Yeah. Yes. And then we can have a discussion.
Hi, everyone. In something like this, I don't know if it's an advantage or disadvantage to go first. The good thing is you can get it all out, but the bad thing is that you're also open to everyone, cutting you into bits afterwards. But let's hope that doesn't happen. So let me start. I'm just going to follow I assume all of you have the order of the points which was given to us. So I'm just going to follow that. And I think the questions by and large are quite interesting and very relevant. The first point is the power to vote every 5 years enough to protect our democratic rights? And the answer to that is yes. When you're talking about democratic rights, we're talking about an equal say in the process of political self-determination, right? So India it's not a direct democracy. It's a representative democracy. So we elect people who go on to govern on our behalf. So for that, you need a certain minimum amount of time for people to show effective governance. Now, is that 4 years or 5 years? I'm open to that. It can be 4 years or 5 years, but we do know that it's not 2 years because that's too short a time. And it's not 8 years because, then people who are in power get very rooted in power, and the people who voted them in don't have a chance to vote them out if they're not accountable. So I think the answer, it's a grey area between 4 years and 5 years, but is 5 years enough? I think yes, by and large it is enough. The second question we've got is, does universal adult suffrage make sense in a country like India where you have people who are not educated and who are not aware of their political rights? And this is something where I want to come out very strongly, and it's something I would request all of you to really think about, because I see a lot of young people on the street say, it doesn't matter, I don't vote, it's kind of cool. Why is it cool to vote? Because, how does it matter? Because people who choose our leaders, are just going and seeing a symbol and voting on it. They don't really realize, so all our leaders don't really represent the people. And I'm telling you this after, not a lot of time, but 3.5 years of very hard work on the road in the deepest, most remote rural areas. Nothing could be further from the truth. Universal adult suffrage today, which basically means every single person has the equal right of the vote. It doesn't matter who you are, you have the right of the vote. Is the only force in India today which is not a divisive force. It is a unifying force. Everything else in India, you look at our social fabric, you have a caste system which tells you you're a Brahmin, you're a Dalit. You look at our economic fabric, you have very rich, you have absolutely, impoverished people. So what in India brings everyone together? What gives people in India, especially the underprivileged in India, which make up 70% of India, the sort of power to be like, I am part of India, I hold an equal stake in how this nation moves forward. It is the power of the vote. And you will be surprised, you can go to the most remote village, they may not have heard of X or Y or this leader or that leader, but by and large, do they know they know the person in the village who belongs to a political party. And by and large, they will have a pretty good idea of what each political party stands for and what each one is willing to give to them. And you'll be surprised. I mean, you'll have women coming up to you and saying, you know what, we've given them enough time. We've given them 5 years and it's time to move on. I want to change. And I think that this power, this empowerment that the vote gives you, that no matter what, on one day in 5 years, no matter how poor you are, no matter how sort of illiterate you are, you have the same power as the richest man in the country, and the biggest politician will come to your doorstep and fold his hands and say, I need your vote. So this is very important for India's democracy to function. So the answer is a resounding yes. The third point we've got is, how do we make our leaders more accessible and accountable? And again, this is, I think, very relevant today. I think there are lots of smaller points, but the three large points, I think, number one is we need a vigilant media. It's very important. We can go into the merits of, whether 24/7 news channels are required or not, but this is perhaps not the forum for it. But I do think a vigilant media, which is to a large extent free from business interests or vested interests, number one. Number two, we need a solid regulatory framework, right? And number three is we need an independent judiciary. If you have all of these three things, then you have leaders knowing that they can't get away with it. So there's a principle of self-accountability that comes in. Why does somebody go in and do something wrong? Because if they knew that they were going to go to jail tomorrow for it and the law would work, would they do it? Not really. It's because most politicians in India have been born and bred into a system where they think they can do anything and get away with it. And the sooner that ends, I think the process of sort of accessibility and accountability comes in. If somebody says that, look, if I am not accessible to my voters, if I don't go to my constituency, 5 years later, I can be Finance Minister of India, but I can barely win the vote by 3,000 votes. That's happened. So I think this is something that we need to think about. So this kind of mechanism, the more free and fair the election process is, we need a vigilant media, we need independent judiciary, and we need strong regulatory framework. These are the sort of large things on which accessibility and accountability of political leadership depends, I feel. The fourth point that we've got is, can social media bridge the gap between the rulers and the ruled? And a lot of you here might disagree with me, but I think this entire social media topic is a bit overplayed. And by overplayed, I'm talking about numbers. If you look at India, I was looking at the numbers and I was a bit shocked actually. 2012, internet penetration in India is 10.2%. Now, because of the population of India being 1.3 billion, 10.2% is still 121 million people. That's huge, right? That's 4 times the population of Northern Europe. So in terms of numbers, it's very large numbers. But you have internet penetration of 10.2%, of which only 3.8% are on Facebook, right? Of which 38% are on Facebook, which means 4% of India essentially is on Facebook, which is, I think, which is social media. I'm not on Twitter, so I'm not very good on Twitter, but I'm assuming people on Facebook are on Twitter, or let's just say it's the same number. So you're talking about 4% of the population. So is this enough to bridge any gap? It's a way in the right direction, and I think most of us here today are privileged enough to be educated, privileged enough to be from urban backgrounds, and I think for us, it's part of our daily life, so we don't think about it. But if you step out 90 kilometers out of Calcutta, people don't know what the internet is. Most people don't even know what it is. They know what a mobile phone is, but nothing beyond that. So I think when we come from a reality like that, to say that social media is going to bridge the gap between the rulers and the ruled, I think we're deluding ourselves. Is it a step in the way, in the right direction, in that it makes leaders more accountable, it makes them more accessible in the sense that you've got, people in the cabinet on Twitter and you can talk to them and you can immediately listen to what their thoughts on something are? Yes, of course. But beyond that, is it really bridge the gap in terms of accessibility? No, I think access and infrastructure will do that, not just social media. The next point that we've got is, can I email, tweet, SMS and poke my leader and get a response? I think that depends on your leader, but to expect anyone, especially a political leader, to sort of answer instantly, I think is, I think it will be impossible. It would be completely impossible, just as you see a chairman of a large corporation, impossible to, will find it impossible just in terms of organization and process to answer personal emails from every employee. I think, yes, is there a system where you can send emails or send tweets or send SMSs into something, and that goes through a filtration process, and the leader spends 2 hours, an hour a day or 7 hours a week or whatever that amount may be to answer those queries? Yes, but do you expect an instant response? I don't think that is possible. Why for any political leader? I think for anyone in any position of responsibility. The next question, and this is what a lot of young people ask me, which is, can I fight elections with no money in my pocket? The simple answer is no. You can't do anything almost with no money in your pocket. I don't think this is the relevant question here. The relevant question is, can I fight elections within the limit which is set by the Election Commission? And I think the answer to that is yes. Right? Do I need 10 crores to fight an election? No. But can I fight an election effectively within the limits set by the Election Commission? I believe yes, we can. Can I fight it with no money in my pocket? No, you can't. For example, if you're fighting a Lok Sabha, right? It's 17 lakh voters. How can you physically reach 17 lakh voters without a car? You need gas for the car. Who's going to pay for that, right? Unless you've been a grassroots level person who has spent 40 years and knows everyone on a personal basis, which itself is difficult, you will need to go and meet people. So just simple things like conveyance, like food, like electioneering during the 45 days of campaign, you need money. So the question of, can I fight elections with no money in my pocket, I think the question itself is perhaps a bit misplaced. The relevant question again is, can I fight it within the limit set? Yes, I believe we can. And I think it is very important for young people to understand that you don't need to be super wealthy or you don't need to have a trust fund to come in and fight elections. It is possible if you have passion and if you're willing to work hard to work within the system and to get somewhere in politics. Yes, it is very, very possible. So don't lose heart, it's very possible. This thing keeps shutting off. The next question, can the left make a comeback in West Bengal politics? And can millennium youth relate to left politics? We've got someone from the left here who's going to speak, so I don't want to take it, take his thunder, but I know, but that's what they say about the left. Even if you're a stranger, you're still part of, part of the brotherhood. So, assuming Prashanthi is still part of the brotherhood, but the question is this, there are two questions, right? Can you make a comeback in West Bengal politics? Can millennium youth relate to left politics? It ultimately depends on the left's ability to adapt to the realities of 21st century India and West Bengal today. There is definitely room for a party which is rooted in social cohesion, in the principles of equality, in the principles of equal distribution of income. Yes, there is. Every single person that you ask in rural Bengal will say, yes, there is. That's what we want, right? So there is, from an ideological point of view, there is space. But it is also ironic that the Trinamool Congress, which is the party in power in Bengal today, which is running the government in power today, has come to power by seizing the political initiative, by outmaneuvering the left using core left issues. Right? If you look at Shingur, you look at Nondigram, what were the core left issues? They have come on core left issues, which is land acquisition, which is peasant livelihood, and they've used a core left approach, which is social inclusion, right, which is social responsibility. So here you have a party which has outmaneuvered the left on core left issues which is coming there. So it's almost ironic. We've out-lefted the left, right? But that's what's happened, and that's something that we need to think about. Can left make a comeback? Now, there are two questions in this. The first is, can the left make a comeback in terms of the political vote, in terms of the political setbacks they've suffered in the past 5 years? And the second thing is, can the left make a comeback in terms of intellectual and ideological appeal to 21st century India? The answer to one, which is, can you make a political comeback, I think depends largely on a very large set of factors that I'm not going to go into, but I think the second thing, if you look at the second point, which is, can you make an ideological and intellectual appeal to 21st century India? I think if you look at wherever the left has been historically, let's look at the historical precedents, and you look, I think Scandinavia stands out. It is a left, but it is extremely different from what 20th century left looked like. It is a left which has, which has moved on, which has embraced market mechanisms, and which has adopted very modern methods of social inclusion, of gender equality. They have fought battles which are relevant. So I think as long as the left adapts itself as it has done in Northern Europe with a more social democrat angle to it, then the left is going to be relevant, right? A political ideology will always be relevant. But if it is set in what it was when it started out and doesn't move forward, then of course people, it's not relevant anymore. So there's always room for a party which stands for the basic principles of equality and distribution of income, but it has to move on to become, for example, flexible labor markets, I'm just more open to, just sort of more open to what the issues today are, and don't look at what you started out with. I think that's important. So that's about it. And the last question which we've got today is, it says, it's actually quite funny. It says, is there room for what is it? It said Bengal politicians don't tolerate dissent. I think the fact that there's someone from the Congress, there's someone from the Trinamool, and there's someone from the left here today, and we're sitting here and we are, standing here and discussing this in an open platform in hopefully a civilized fashion, shows that yes, we do tolerate dissent and we do take it forward. So I think, the answer lies in just looking at this panel. That's about it. Yeah? So I don't see a lot of, I see a lot of kind of wishy-washy faces. What is it? Do you have any questions, or sorry, do we do the questions later, or? Oh, yeah, we do the questions later. Is there anything that you would like to say now, or surely has it been so boring that you can't sort of drum up something? Does someone have a question right away? In fact, Moa, I'd like to ask you one right away, because sure. It couldn't have been seen as an outsider, especially because you were in the Congress earlier. No, I think that is, I haven't done politics in any other state, but I think that is one of the most beautiful things about Bengal is that it doesn't really matter where you've come from. And I say this honestly, I have never felt the pressure to conform. Right? When I came in, people say, do you think you can enter politics with red nail polish? I've had people tell me this. Do you think you can come in with red lipstick and think you can go to the villages? And I will tell you something honestly, it does not matter. I have gone, you can wear any color. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go, there's a sense of sort of proportion, but overall, if you come in willing to work and you're willing to sweat it out and you come in with passion in your heart and you're doing it for the right reasons, people see through that. People see through that, and the support that you get is overwhelming. So I literally came in as an outsider. I had everything that's going against me, but it's possible. The fact that I'm here today, and it doesn't really matter if you were in the Congress, I felt at home in the Congress, and I feel at home in the Trinamool. Do you fit into the political body? And the answer to that is yes. But why did you switch? That's a personal question. And why did I switch? I think I came in to work at the grassroots level in Bengal, and I think at that given point, the Congress part, and I'm not saying this is not room for a sort of a political slugfest, but I'm still going to answer this. It's a personal question, so I'm giving you my answer, which is at that given point in time, you see, you are fighting the left in Bengal. You're fighting the left in Bengal, and it's a dirty fight. You're fighting on the streets in Bengal. You can't do it if you don't have the freedom to take decisions based on your reality on the ground. If you are depending on national coalition politics or something else, I mean, for example, the left walked out of UPA 1 over the nuclear issue. Had they not walked out, what would have happened? That means the 2009 Lok Sabha, a Congress politician in Bengal would have had to go to the people and say, you know what, the left are terrible, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, but actually they're part of the central government. Do you see the dichotomy here? It's extremely difficult. So to be part of a Congress, national forces, I think the Congress party is at the helm of Indian sort of Delhi politics, and because of coalition, I think, coalition compulsions determine to a very large extent how they can move in states. And that is not the most effective platform to fight a grassroots struggle in that state. So, that was my basic reason for moving.